Torsaw Lawton is going to come, and there's an announcement he needs to share with us.
Thank you, Dr. Harden, to President Talbert. Many of you, especially from the state of Texas, will remember the name of Lester Price, a great layman from the Golden Gate Baptist Church, a supporter and advisor to many of the presidents of the Brotherhood, including myself. Went home to be with the Lord on this afternoon. We don't have any details of the services, but we will make sure that we let the convention leadership know when those plans are made. So I would ask that you would please be prayerful, especially for his daughter, who was his caretaker, and members of the Golden Gate Missionary Baptist Church, where he served for so many years. A great supporter in the Missionary Baptist State Convention of Texas, as well as our National Baptist Convention and in the Baptist World Alliance. He will truly, truly be missed. Thank you, Brother President. Dr. Harden.
I purchased those socks from one of our vendors. I thought at least I'd wear them at one of our meetings. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for your prayers and just appreciative of Dr. Sam Talbert, who invited me and entrusted me to share in this journey with the National Baptist Convention of America Incorporated, Internationally Incorporated, just to come along. I was sitting in my office last June 18th. We had Vacation Bible School, and I get a phone call. And I saw it was a Louisiana number, and I answer all Louisiana numbers because my father is in Louisiana, and he's 84. Y'all keep him in prayer. This morning, around 6:35 this morning, he had an angiogram, had to put 3 stents in his LAD. It was 99% blocked. And so y'all keep him in prayer. So whenever I see a call with a Louisiana area code, I automatically answer. And I just answered. I didn't know who it was. And on the other line, get something. You might have heard something like this. Hello? This is Dr. Samuel Talbert, President of the National Baptist Convention of America Incorporated. Yes, sir. How you doing? I called up to Dallas and called some people's name and asked them, can they recommend someone? And they gave me your name. And I said, okay. He said, now they have in the room with me Pastor Lazard, and I want to say it was Brother Johnny, and who else was that? And Coleman. I'm not quite sure if that's the right company, but that's what he said was in the room. And he started sharing with me on what he was desiring and what he wanted. And then Pastor Lazard says, wait a minute. We went to college together. And then Pastor Talbert handed him the phone. Here, talk to him. So we did go to college together. We hadn't seen each other since college days. But they invited me to join in this journey with NBCA, and he shared this idea of a GC2 summit and asked would I consider participating. I said I'd be happy to. He says, well, I need you to be at Congress. I said, sure, when is it? He goes, Monday. I said, what Monday? Like Monday coming. And I said, oh Lord. And I said, let's move some things around, and I'm glad that I did attend. And from there, the president has allowed me just to share in this journey, and he shared his heart of what it meant and what NBCA means to him and for the whole And so, as someone said earlier, I served and worked with Baptist General Convention of Texas, Texas Baptist. And so, in that partnership, they have me on this temporary loan. And so they don't even know I'm here. So whoever recorded, please turn it off. No, they know I'm here, but they don't know I'm here. No, and so I'm with the family. I'm with the brothers and the sisters. Amen.
Amen.
And so when we started sharing on what it would look like and for our convention, what the Lord wanted, it's just been a great journey. So thank you all for just embracing a brother that's not been here long, but definitely beloved. And I know some of the brothers and sisters in the room, not only because, come on, somebody share, where my Louisiana folks? Yes, sir. So y'all know what we just said. If you're not from Louisiana, we spoke in tongues. You can interpret. But there's no place like home. But not only in Louisiana, but also throughout this country. And so tonight we want to set the stage, if you would. Tonight our desire is to take a peek into the future. What is the future? What's the future look? Does anyone know what the future holds? Raise your hand.
We know who holds the future.
Yeah, I know who holds the future, but I want to ask the question. No, so I know that's the Sunday school answer.
Yeah.
And I knew the general secretary was going to say that. But we don't know. But we know who holds the future.
That's right. That's good enough.
The question is, are you prepared for what he has in store? He holds the future, but are you prepared for it? Can I give us a very sobering fact? The church in general, the black church in particular, is anywhere from 10 to 15 years behind their times. We're behind the times. Now we talk about, no, I'm modern. We're not. And this is not a knock. I'm not trying to be but I'm just being real. How many of you have cell phones? Raise them up if you're not on them right now. Yeah. Now, how many of you remember that phone with that 40-foot cord? Yeah. In the town, I'm a native of Louisiana, New Iberia, Louisiana, and we didn't have to learn but 5 numbers for the phone. The last 5, because all of them started with 31836. As a matter of fact, my Aunt Rita, she'll be 96 this year. Same number, 337-364-4312. I learned that when I was 7 years old. She ain't changed it. But you know what my Aunt Rita had? She had a cell phone. And when I want to call her, I don't call a landline. I call a cell phone. I know that don't mean she's gonna answer it, but I call it. But how many of you would trade in that cell phone for the landline? Truth is, some of us don't even have a landline at home. I happen to, because I gotta have one for business purposes, and so it is only to get the faxes. And who fax anymore? But if you had asked us what we prepared for that, right? You'd have said no. The reality of it is that the cell phone, may I use it right quick? The cell phone President Alexander has more computing power than they used to put a man on the moon.
Wow.
This cell phone has more computing power than they had when they put a man on the moon. Now, I don't know about you, but I ain't trading that phone. I ain't getting that. But why is it that you won't trade your... I need churches, and I'm a had that vision. And at birth, you get that vision. You see where you're going. And then when infancy, there's vision and there's relationships. When it's young, when it's new, you build a relationship. Everything about relationship. How you doing? You know why? Because you ain't got no building. When y'all first start, ain't got no building, you ain't got no budgets, you ain't no burdens, all that kind of stuff. No buses. Then we start adding, at childhood we add programs. And then sometimes programs overtake relationships. And as we grow older, we got management. So now pastor can get more than chicken dinner. And how many of your pastor got a bag of groceries for? How many of y'all still get groceries? As a young adult on that curve, we got full management, full potential. We thriving. We're in the prime, if you would. It's strong. You're able to pay the musician what they're asking for. And the drummer. And the secretary. And all those kind of stuff. But as you get older, watch this. Vision diminishes because you're trying to pay a bill. And we stop dreaming because all we're doing now is making sure bills get paid. And where there's no vision, empty nest, here's what happens. Vision and programs diminish, but relationship and management is dominant. We got to keep the same people in the same position, in the same place. Because they're the ones that pay the bills. Don't care if it looks good. Don't care if it's something new. Let's not think about nothing. Let's stay where we are, right? Retirement, relationships diminish, programs of their old age is only management. It's only, all we're trying to do here is keep the lights on. It's not about relationship, because sometimes people not even there. That's our reality. That's lifestyle for church. So how do we get past that? So let's look at a little bit real quick. The black church. This is the area of study for both of my dissertations. The black church. So and the black church and black church influence. Let's go. So here's kind of a historical picture, if you would, of the black church in the 1600s. Conception of the black church. We used to go down by the riverside and study War No More. That's all we could do. Where did steal away come from? Slavery. Back then, that's all we had. We wanted our own thing. We wanted our own way of expressing. This is not a racial statement, but here's the deal. I tell people all the time, the black church, we had a different theology. The origin of the black church is because we saw scripture and the ethics of the white church was not congruent with the scripture said. So it's not that we have a different theology. It's just our ethics. You can't tell me love thy neighbor. Yeah. And then you hanging me.
Yeah, Lord.
You can't say there's no Greek and there's no Gentile, no Jew or Gentile, male or female. But when I come to church, I gotta sit in the balcony.
But there's no difference.
How many of us know what this means in church?
But that was during by slaves.
What's it mean? Yeah. So putting your finger up was not just telling you going to the bathroom, but here's what it was.
Yep.
You got permission.
That's right.
From the master to go to the bathroom. It ain't can I go, this is can I go. This, because if it was just this can I go, and they said yes, you put your hand down. But we do this from the middle of the church all the way to the door.
Yep.
Why? Because the master said, just in case someone didn't see the master give him permission or her permission, That says I got permission, so please don't bother me till I get outside.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
So you're having prayer meeting before church starts, and then white parishioners come into the church and tell us to move. He said, so we will. Can we finish praying? And they said, no, you're gonna move now. He said, I can do one better. I can move out. So Richard Allen and Absalom Jones moved out. It wasn't theology, it's ethics. That's where we come from. And that's the origin, that's the crux of the black church. Treating folks fair, seeing that things are equitable, seeing that things are right. Well, emancipation comes along, right? We're free. We've got some national bodies, AME Zion, Baptists come on, you know. Now, blacks like Baptists better, especially in the South, because they're a little more free. They got their autonomy. Now, they got a salary with the Methodist Church, though. And retirement. So I had to figure out if I wanted a package or I wanted freedom. So I didn't want the bishop to tell me what to do. But I don't mind you telling me if you're paying my bills. So we've got that emancipation comes along. And so the black church, watch this, the black church was the only place that formerly enslaved individuals had, watch this, that was theirs. The first institution that was established on American soil was the black church by black folks. And I have some of my white counterparts says, why don't we merge? I said, why don't y'all come to us? Because merge means I give up me for you. Well, aren't we a melting pot? No, Because if you ever melted different kind of cheeses,
All right.
the cheese that's most dominant,
Take over. That's right.
Gouda good by itself. But when Gouda get with something else, Gouda take over. And your little Swiss ain't gonna make nothing out of it. I'm more like a salad bowl. I can see the lettuce, tomato, cucumber, carrot, onion, bacon bit. Ain't no dominant. But watch this. I can eat all them things by themselves.
That's right.
So let's be a salad bowl, not a melting pot. Because that means you're gonna take over. And we not let that happen. So you get this liberation and limited mobility, and for us, the black church is where black folks went. That's just lifestyle and better. That's where we went. We formed ourselves, and then we tried to figure out how can we get better. We was doing good. That's our resource. Listen, when folks left the South for better opportunities in Chicago and Philadelphia, they came. Watch it. They went looking for a Southern church and didn't find one. Where my Chicago folks, my Philly folks. How many storefront churches they got out there? Can't count. Now, Pastor, I tell you, all their storefront churches have Southern roots. Come out of Mississippi, Alabama, because they're looking back at home. Because Northern blacks y'all had freedom, we didn't.
It's different.
It's a different Negroes. That's not what the secretary said. I can't. He used another pronoun, another noun. It's not with the N word, but anyway, as my grandmother says, it's not with the N and it's not like at the end. She was with me the other day. She said, I gotta tell you something. Now, they got this kid at school, and I can't say what he said, but he said that it's not with an N and with an she figured she can't use that in front of me. I said, oh, he called you a nigga? No, I said, no, he didn't call me a nigga, because he called me a nigga. You'd be come get me. My grandbaby smooth, but she gonna hit you. Here's the deal. It's a different person, right? And so you have that. Because that's what they were looking for. So 80% of NBCA churches are in the coastal South. They are. Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. It's not enough. And so we love everybody. We love New Mexico folks, the Florida folks. We want everybody. But what happens, that's kind of where we are. So you get this, and so conventions coming and churches are coming, trying to find identity, how we're going to go along and so forth and so on. And you do realize, I'm not being messy, not throwing shade. Our conventions was not theology. It's ethics. You take from that what you want. It's in the history books. I mean, I ain't talking about nobody. That's just reality. And then, so the churches where everybody met, we did the civil rights. But here's what happened: 1970s, we thought we had overcome. Lyndon Johnson, these folks signed Civil Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, and we had arrived. And before Dr. King left this earth, he wrote a little small book, and if you've not read it, I encourage you to go read it. It's entitled, Where Do We Go From Here? You need to hear that. You need to read it. It's not heavy reading, it's not long, but it answers, where do we go from here? NBCA, let me ask the question in 2026, where do we go from here? He said, now you got the rights, where do you go from here? It starts to do it. So what happens? In the 20s and 2000s, prosperity gospel pops up. And once again, my intent is not to offend anyone, but the name and the claimants, the faith, all those self-actualization is where we come. It's us. We got this thing. Watch this. In the 1980s, late 1980s, the upward mobility of Black Americans was 6 times as much as it was in the 60s. The upward mobility of Black Americans was 6 times as much as it was in the 1960s. So we thought we were all the Jeffersons.
Move it on up. Move it on up to the east side. Finally.
Where was
Piece of the pie.
where was George and Louise before they went to the east side of Manhattan?
In the Harlem.
Where?
In the
The
hood.
Hood, the Bronx.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
Harlem.
They were next door to Archie Bunker.
Yeah, Lord.
And when they left,
Yeah.
because of the store they had, he realized just because you leave the hood, 2 things don't mean the hood leave you. And doesn't mean folks don't forget where you from. But we done moved on up. I ain't mad at it. We had television programs that showed us our upward mobility. Because before that we had Dolomite. We had Shad. We had Lake. Anybody know Lake? You know Lincoln? Oh, that's right. Craig, you wasn't even born yet. Miles got Lake was the only brother with the big fro. Everybody had one. Even Captain Kirk had one. It was a sister. Okura. Uhura, something. That's what they had. That's what they had. And she had an afro and all that kind of stuff. That's what. And then in the 80s, we saw Bill Cosby.
Yep. Yeah.
And he was a pediatrician and a gynecologist. And she was a lawyer.
She was a lawyer.
We had never seen them. They didn't, and here's the, they didn't live in the upside of Manhattan or in Harlem. You live in Brooklyn. That's cool. That's what you had. And their kids went to HBCU. And I never shall forget, I was sitting in a restaurant and I was in Iowa. That's the only time I went. I didn't have to go back. Iowa has two things I love. Was it? Coming. Yeah, that's it. I think just one. They have grain-fed pork. And the best, if you're on the Muslim side, and if you high pretension, but that pork in Iowa, ain't nothing like it. But I was over listening to a conversation, and I heard some Anglos saying, they was talking about the Cosby, said, that ain't real. They having a conversation about me. That ain't real. I don't know no black man and black woman that's a lawyer and a doctor. I don't know him. And I'm sitting at the table because I was in Iowa for a conference representing my company as an engineer from NASA. But they don't know that. I'm the Huxtable. Then I realized, Ricky, what I realized was, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
How much education you got, you still.
That's right.
So here's the deal. So then the black church starts saying, well, I gotta help you in your self-actualization. So for some of us in the black church, we stop preaching about morality, we stop preaching about standards, we start preaching sound doctrine. Okay? We start talking about the struggles because we want to get the crowd. And then, oh my God, you got television came in. And that's what we want to be like that. And one of the worst things in the world, they say that imitation is the biggest form of flattery, but a poor imitator sucks. It's better to be a better you than a poor imitator. Now let me help us real quick. Let me help us. And I'm not saying y'all, I'm saying help us. Pastors, leaders, let us be mindful and careful not to look at other places and try to imitate, because here's the deal. You don't know how they got there. And you realize a 15-second reel makes not you a pastor?
Yeah, man.
What we see other 15 seconds. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to that conference now. Why? What did they teach me? Nothing. But boy, they closed it. I see a whole bunch of folk at the front. What? Where's our life? That's what you. Now, where are we now? We're in a post-civil rights, postmodern, high technical church. So when the pandemic hit, here's what happened to us. Many of us, and you may be like I was in the room. I ain't gone on no Facebook and do nothing. I ain't doing none of that till the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Then we try to figure out how to put the camera, stop coming up our nose.
Yeah, get the angle right.
Angle right. Yeah. Get the lighting right.
Yeah,
And now, and the worst thing is, we looking at the live stream while you're preaching to see how many likes you get, as opposed to how many souls you touch.
All right.
And so now it's how many likes I got.
that's right.
Not how many lives I've changed. Now, I don't know. pandemic, the next disruption gonna be. But I pray that we are preparing ourselves. Individual churches within NBCA as NBCA. How do we, because here's what happened, y'all. When the pandemic, and for those however many months, 10, 12 months, whatever it was, that we didn't meet, we couldn't meet, our income stream changed. And folks became accustomed, here it is, to a la carte ministry. I pick and choose who I want to listen to today. And some of us in the room today saying, they ain't coming to my church, they ain't going to church. No, they ain't going to your church. They going to church. And it's optional. And it's optional. And here's what you do. I can get somebody at 7:45.
Yep.
I can get somebody at 8:30.
Yep.
I can cook lunch. While you, at the same time. Matter of fact, I can be at brunch. I did it one time, y'all. I was preaching for a friend of mine, and his service is at 8 o'clock, which is, it was good because it was in my town. It was local. And I'm like, man, y'all done that at 9:45? So Doc, I went over there looking for brunch. I said, oh, I like this. I started to go back and change to 8 o'clock at that church, but that meant I had to be there at 8 o'clock every Sunday. I realized that wasn't the best answer to have. Here's the reality. Folk will watch us, they will watch church, they're not be in the church at brunch. And so here's the problem, that's right. So now what we have is a consumer culture.
Yep. Consumer.
Let me see, I'm gonna pick and choose. Had a lady come at me one day, what's that brother's name? Gino, I call it, I don't really care. Gino. Jenny, yeah. And she came and she was, I greet everybody as they leave at the church. Thank you for coming. It's just, how you doing? And so she started asking stuff by Gino, and then she said, Pastor, you watch? I said, no, I ain't got time to watch Gino. Now, I almost used some flavorful words. Start with an N, end with an I said, I don't watch Gino. I don't watch Creflo. I don't watch Marcus in my hometown. I don't watch Marcus. You know why? Because I'm watching you. And then she got swole. She gonna get attitude. I said, baby, you got the wrong one today. Because see, I ate my Wheaties that morning. I don't know about you guys. Let me tell you something. This is my confession. Every 6 weeks, on the 7th week, every 7th